Welcome to the channel, fam. As always, I am your host, Mike Hernandez. Today is going to be the first time that we do a rundown on my current JT setup, and it's also going to be the last. I'll explain why in a second, but first, cue the intro. My name is Mike Hernandez, and I'm just a regular dude who is passionate for adventure. Come along with me as I share my experiences and lessons I learn along the way. Oh, as long as it's in a Jeep. Oh, and one more thing. Family isn't an important thing, it's everything. Fam, it's good to have you back. Thanks again for joining us. If you're a first-time viewer here, do me a favor and subscribe. Right now we got about, last I checked, I think it was somewhere around 92% of the viewership on this page is not subscribed. So if you can do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. There'll be an option at the end of this video to do so. Again, I appreciate your support. For those of you guys who have been following me for a while now on my social media sources, I know that you guys have been asking for this video for a while, but it couldn't have worked out in a much better scenario than what it did now. So before we begin and we go through the walkthrough of the actual truck, the current setup, as you know right now, is and was temporary. Currently when you see it, the suspension specifically was not anything fancy, right? And we'll address that as we get into the details of it. One of the things that we're doing, just so you guys are aware on this channel, is I am a real strong believer in experience-based learning. So because of the intent on learning, certain things, I made decisions in the beginning of this video or in the beginning of this build along with my partners to do things that will give me more of an understanding, okay? So that's the reason why I'm going through another change and possibly some more in the future. I don't know. I do have some current things in the works with the truck and myself, as well as the page, right? So for you guys who are watching this for the first time, this isn't strictly, a YouTube channel on the truck. There's a lot of other things that are interacting. We have firearm stuff, we have hunting stuff, as you guys see in the intro. That's the reason why I did it that way. So again, let's move on with what's going on with the JK, but just so you're understanding, wheels and tires are coming off tomorrow, the suspension's coming off tomorrow, and we're going to the next phase of it. So that's what I mean by today's video couldn't come at a better time. Everything is changing in terms of suspension and tires, and I couldn't be more pleased with it. So without further delay, let's get into what is going on with Rescue JT. So for starters, the name Rescue JT came out because, it came because of its predecessor. The Jeep Wrangler in the intro video was the second Jeep that I had owned, and also kind of the beginning for me of really exploring, the Jeep platform as a whole. I originally started with a 2010 Wrangler that progressed to the 2014, and now I have a 19 JL and then the 20 JT, or the truck. The name comes from a nickname that I got from my peers. Essentially, I was just getting a reputation of helping other people. My buddies would go hunting or fishing or what have you, the lake, and would find themselves in situations where they were non-Jeepers and needed to be rescued. Yes, I just did air quotes. And that's it, right? They would just say, hey, is Rescue Jeep available? Man, I'm kind of in a bind. You get it. If you guys have seen the last couple of episodes or even some of my partners' pages, you know that this truck right out the gate has already got some really cool things going on in the way of rescues. One from a water rescue that we had to wait 3 days for. If you guys want to go back, I do have a video on that. Another one from a couple of friends who were stuck in the mud.
We got a little bit of slack. All right, you're good right there. Okay. Reverse, Randy. Let me know when to start going. Ready? Yep. Go!
We went and did that, and that's essentially where the name came from. naturally, as I progressed into the next vehicle in our fleet, and as time progressed, that was kind of the name that stuck. So that's the reason for the name, if you didn't know. Now, on the flip side of the name, I am involved with behavior health, and that's primarily my career. This is something that I do as kind of like a labor of love, as a passion that, you know, is something that I'm involved with. The Rescue JT or Rescue JK name has kind of a dual meaning to me, in that in the last 12 years, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with several cases with the state of Arizona, involved with wards of the state. One of the things that I found, and you'll see this kind of reflected in our family, is that there is something to be said about packing up your family or yourself and taking a road trip, right? And I'm not saying take a road trip and then your face is just in the iPad the entire time. I'm saying take a road trip, you know, sitting side by side, having that conversation, you know, especially with like your son or your daughter, significant other, you know, that's time well spent. That's what I've done in the last 12 years with the kids that I worked with in the system. So in a sense, the Rescue JK, you know, had a lot to do with it, especially the last kiddo that I worked with, my eldest, you know, there's a lot of sentimental value there to where it, in a sense, did rescue, you know, us and what we were dealing with and working with in terms of the issues that I have been tasked to intervene with. So there is a dual meaning. It's a little sentimental, not to get too serious, but that is also the reason for the hashtag Rescue JK, Rescue JT name. All right, let's get started with the front. First off, you'll notice in the front that I went with the Gen Right bumper. I really love the aesthetic of this company. It's all aluminum, just like Rescue JK, an aircraft grade, looks great. It's all TIG welded, handmade American-made stuff. So you'll see I have the Gen Right aluminum up front, Warren Xeon 10S winch, synthetic line, that's what the S stands for, in the front. And new to our partnership list is Factor 55. So here you can see I do have their Fairlead and their Ultra Hook in the front. Huge upgrade, still a closed winching system, but as some of the rescues that I was talking about in the previous section of this video, it became apparent that I needed a hook option as well, because when I was attempting to attach shackles and pull the last Gladiator out of the water, I could not see what I was doing, and it would have made it all the more easier to just get in and clip a hook in and then secure it the way that Factor 55 has it. So on this new build, that's the reason why I went that direction. Factor 55 did provide these two options, as well as options for our JL, which is still in the works, guys. I know I haven't really showed you guys anything other than that, except for the original video. So we'll continue on there with Factor 55. Thank you, Factor 55. I really appreciate it. So as we progress through it, that's the front. As you move to the side, you'll notice that on the fenders, they are the LED package, so I really do like that there. And I removed the side markers with a product from Diode Dynamics that just makes the side markers the same color, just for a nice flow and an aesthetic that I like. Continuing on, I'm keeping the factory fenders on the truck. And as you can see here on the side, I have an ARB twin air compressor behind the fender well. Then it has a remote outlet that pulls over the shock tower, secured down and behind the Gen Right bumper when I need to air up. Great option. So ARB twin, it is a first for me. Typically I like to use the CO2 bottles. I do still have one, and we'll probably do a redundancy on this truck once it's all finalized and we get everything set out. But for now, the ARB works fine. I've been using it on the last several outings that we've had, and although it's new to me, already liking it. So as we make our way back, you can see the tires are a 37-12-50 R17 AT all-terrain from Falcon Tire. The reason I went with these is because I had not ran them in the past, and I wanted to see what the difference was between these and the MT. So I got a couple thousand miles on these. A really good idea how they respond off-road and how they respond on-road. I have to tell you, they're actually a really great tire. Falcon does run these in the King of the Hammers races as a race tire, and they did really great for me. There is a little bit of a preference though for you guys who are asking, you know, what should I do, MT or AT? You know what, man, it's all comes down to what do you want to accomplish. For me, the AT is great. I'm gonna run them on my JL, and on this next go around, I am gonna go back to the MT because I do want more of an aggressive tread pattern on the road, and it's just a preference thing, okay? So yeah, these 37s have so far done great. You guys can see the Raceline wheels that I have on this vehicle are also the same ones that you saw on the truck, or I'm sorry, the Rescue JK, the Wrangler. Falling all over myself here, sheesh. And you'll notice also that they're powder coated black, a little bit more glossy. I think I did them somewhere around like 40% gloss, just to give it a little more of a pop, I guess. I don't know, something different. And I also went with the aluminum rings rather than the steel rings. I'm not really a big fan of the steel rings now after running them on the JK, just because they do kind of have a little bit of, I don't know, a play to them. You know, the aluminum ones don't, which is crazy, right? You'll think that steel probably should be stronger, but in the way that they designed them, I think they're a little thinner. But as well as, you know, when they would catch things and you'd mar them up like you're gonna do, right? I mean, these don't have anything on them because I haven't done that level of off-roading on them, but when they do catch, then they get rust all over them, and it's a little more of it's an older way of doing beadlocks and a preference. So I prefer the aluminum beadlock rings, and again, I powder coated these to match. Eventually they'll get shredded up, but I actually do prefer these a lot more, and that's a 17-inch wheel from Raceline on this. The backspace, I believe, is a 32 millimeter. I'll correct it if I'm wrong, but I believe that's where it's at. So it does give me a little wider stance. There are no spacers or anything like that on this vehicle. I didn't want to go that direction. I just wanted to keep it this way. And it's a 17 by 9.5. I really do like Raceline, guys. They're also a sponsor of ours, a business partner. These guys have really proven their worth. If you're trying to make a decision between beadlocks or non, you know, again, it's all preference and what do you want to accomplish on that. So as we stay here in the front, you can see the Fox shocks that are on the truck are actually the same ones from the factory. There is a 2-inch extension on the factory shocks because all I'm running is a very inexpensive 2-inch steel spacer kit on this truck. The reason being is, one, I wanted to see the height and the breakover angle, departure, approach angles and everything with a 2-inch lift without spending the money on a full suspension system. I mean, you'll get pricey once you go through and replace all the shocks, you know, the coil springs, and then you started, you know, having to correct some of the geometry issues that you have as you go a little higher. When it comes to recommending a spacer kit, I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, hear me out, okay? A lot of people hate on these things, and there really is no performance gain, okay, when you're doing a 2-inch spacer. So if you're buying it with the intent on doing that, then just do that, right? I mean, that's what I did. I wanted to see the height on 2 inches, and that's it. If you're totally comfortable with the factory feel of the Gladiator, the Rubicon Gladiator as it comes out of the box, then it might be an option for you. If you're leasing your vehicle, that's also an option for you, where you're not spending a ton of money trying to get in. One of the great features of, you know, the new line of trucks and Wranglers that Jeep is doing is it doesn't take much to get them out and having a totally capable vehicle. Actually, just out of the box, they're great, right? I mean, with the Rubicon, as we're going through the options, you know, I do have the factory lockers that come with it, which are awesome. You know, the Rubicons have the upgraded axles on the Wrangler. All the truck Dana 44s are all the same with the exception of the locker and gearing at 410. So there's not a lot in the way of things that you have to do. In my mind, this vehicle is done in terms of an overland vehicle. An overland vehicle or expedition style vehicle isn't something that you're going to need to have loads of articulation. 37s are a great point to, I guess, end, you know, at an overland vehicle because it gives you enough space for your breakover approach and departure angles. So that's why I wanted to go this route too, just to kind of test that. Me, I don't really consider myself an overlander. There's a lot of, I guess, negative stigma in my circle and for myself in calling us that. I mean, for me, if you've ever camped out of your vehicle, you're overlanding, right? And people just take it to this extreme, or, you know, you guys aren't really overlanders because you don't really live out of your vehicles, and I live out of my, it's whatever, bro. Do you, right? I get it. So with that, that's the reason why I went with the 2-inch spacer. I have to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of the Rubicon Gladiators shock valving. To me, it's too soft. Maybe I'm a little spoiled in the way that I built the Wrangler in the past, but this truck is very comfortable on the highway, but as soon as I got it off highway and in the dirt and a little bit faster, it's just too soft and tends to not be what I want it to do. And that's all preference, right? Some people love it, some people don't. Try it, right? Try it, see what you like, do what's best for you. So with that being said, it's got that 2-inch spacer kit lift front and rear, gave me enough to run a 37-inch tall tire, and essentially completed the truck, right? So I would look at this, like I said prior, as a completed vehicle. Everything else is just secondary. You definitely want to start first on tires, decide what tire size you want to run with, and then everything is from there, and it can create like a waterfall effect or a trickle down or a snowball, however you want to put it, to where, okay, now I need to reinforce, strengthen, change, and you name it. So what's cool also about the truck is that it's got these really great wheel wells, higher fender lines for the Rubicon, and you can fit what you need. So that's really it in the way of suspension. The other thing that I did do was I did a Synergy Manufacturing track bar bracket that also braces the steering box to the frame. There is a known issue with some of the Jeep products in Wrangler and Gladiator, to where I don't know if it's just because they went to the new electric steering as opposed to hydraulic steering they had in the past, but there is a little bit of play in the box on the frame. I noticed that when I first purchased both of my Jeep products, and it's really not that big a deal in factory form, but as soon as you add heavier wheels and tires, we all know that 37s are a lot heavier than the factory 33s that came with it, and then the heavier bead locks that came along with it, it exacerbated the issue. See, there we go. There it is. There it is, guys. Had to put 2 hands on the wheels, 2 hands on the wheel to kind of square it away. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It made it sloppy. A lot of people will say, oh, that's just a Jeep thing, right? I mean, you kind of learn to live with it. JKs tend to wander a little bit. But there is an area for improvement, and with a product like what Synergy makes at only $200, I mean, why not do it, right? There is an argument to be said that, well, it shouldn't come like that from the factory, and I get it. I get what you're saying, but you also have to understand that it's inherent with a straight axle vehicle, not making excuses for Jeep. But think about it, okay? A tire and an axle, straight axle in between front and rear is, I mean, as old as time, right? Horse-drawn wagons are essentially the same suspension. The only difference is this one has a coil spring now with a shock, okay? So with that being said, the amount of engineering that went into the Synergy project is pretty amazing. Immediately after I installed it and drove it down the driveway, it just corrected everything, translating to a nice, firmer feel and straightforward driving characteristic. That's it. I haven't changed anything else in the way of sway bars, disconnects, none of that. This has the electronic sway bar disconnect from the factory because it's Rubicon, but I haven't extended the links. I haven't changed geometry on the arms, the control arms. I haven't upgraded, the track bar or the drag link or the tire rod, nothing like that, because I only went 2 inches, okay? That's one of the benefits as you're looking at it and as you're looking at your budget or how you want to do it. This is done. I mean, it drives great down the road, drives straight, gives me enough clearance to go where I want to go in terms of overlanding, adventuring, or even an expedition style platform. For me though, I do want to push it a little more in terms of off-road performance. I am a little bit more of the crawler or the adventure crawler kind of fusion mindset, and I do want to get a little more performance out of it. So you're going to see after this setup, that's the direction I'm going. So as we make our way back to the rear of the, I kept the factory Rubicon sliders for now. Those will change eventually, but for now they're doing a great job. The rear, you can see it's got all the factory Rubicon rear protection for the departure angle and bumper. That's all factory. When you look in the bed, you can see here, and I did 2 different videos on this. The bed is lined by Rhino Liner. Shout out to those guys. I gave me a nice discount, and we shot that video if you want to go back. That's actually probably one of my more favorite videos just because it reminds me of, remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I was a kid, or Sesame Street, or PBS would do the crayon shop. You go to the crayons and you see it built. That's kind of the feeling that the bed liner video gave to me. So yeah, go ahead and check that out if you're interested. If not, that's what happened here in the bed. I didn't get that factor from the option. I also added the Rebel off-road rails. You can see here there's 3 of them. Super easy installation. I purchased those. You'll also see here that I did have a Rotopax 4-gallon fuel tank attached to the rails here. Kind of didn't like the way it mounted, so I took it off, but it was an option. And then when you look to the side here, you'll notice that I have a 12-volt power source that I wired on another previous video. You can check that out. One of the issues that I'm having is it is a marine grade option for your bed. It does operate on its own circuit that I wired to the battery. However, the first time it touched water, it fried the voltmeter that I got on there, so I'm going to remove it. The other options work, as well as the 12-volt old cigarette lighter option where I'm going to plug in a fridge. I have a Snowmaster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out that broken voltmeter and add a second 12-volt power source in there. Problem solved. One of the interesting things too, as you go under the bed, is there's like this debate online I was laughing at. People were saying you can't put a 37-inch tall tire under the bed. It's impossible. Now, hear me out. I do have a full-size spare underneath the bed in the factory location, but man, I only have a limited amount of space before it touches the rear sway bar link that goes across. What I did is, with the help of another person, got down there as we started to winch the tire and wheel up. I made sure that it cleared, pushed it back, and then tightened it down so it wouldn't move forward and hit that link that goes across. Haven't had any issues. I've off-roaded it, gone pretty fast, and it's fine. Definitely, I'm not going to be able to fit anything bigger than that. And if you don't want to run the risk of it rubbing, then you're definitely not going to want to follow what I did. Works for the time being. It's coming out, and then I won't be able to use it because we're going bigger. So as you're looking at that, that's really it. I mean, that's the truck as a whole. To me, when you're looking at it, like I said, you start with tires first, you work around it. The 2-inch lip was great for this. Not really a fan of the Fox shocks. Love the Gen Right bumper up front. What's great, another point about the Gen Right bumper up front is that it is flat toe rated like the previous one I had. So you guys may have seen my setup to where I have an old Class C RV. That coincidentally, I'm going to shoot a video on that one as a bug out vehicle. But I would flat toe the Wrangler behind it, and because of the ingenuity and the strength of the Gen Right front bumper, it's rated to do that, and you can just do it from those toe points. I can do the same thing with this truck. As we get into the interior of the truck, we can go through that too. You can see that I have a 67 design mount for 2 options. Right now, I have my iPad up front as well as my iPhone. Very inexpensive. If you guys want to take a look, check them out. I'm not connected to them anyway, but I really do appreciate the product. I also run it on my JL as well. As you move down towards the back, you see that I am running Fieldcraft Survival Panel System, the Go Light bag. It's a great option for med equipment. I have a med kit on the very top pouch, and I can access and blow it off, meaning just grab it. It's Velcro. It comes off very easily. When you need it, or the opposite is true also. The Velcro is strong enough to where if you're bouncing around, crawling, getting sideways, it's just not going to fall off that panel. And it also has a survival kit in it, also from Fieldcraft Survival, as well as some tire stuff on the bottom. What's great about this panel too is that it has MOLLE. So you can see here that I have a radio on it, comms. I have a knife, a window breaker, and stuff that honestly, when I'm sitting in the front seat, I can reach over. And that's one of the things I do too, is I practice reaching over, grabbing it, and it comes off to where I'm at, or anywhere in the rear. Anybody in the rear can also access that. What's great about this panel is it does come off. It turns into a backpack very quickly. If you look back at the original marketing on this bag, my little girl, who was, that was what, 2 years ago? She must have been 6 years old, 7 years old at the time when we did that. And it, if she can easily pull that off and hand it to me, anybody can, right? So that product I really do like because I use it, every day. It's been in 2 vehicles, and I have another one in my JL. You guys should look into getting something like that. Use code Hernandez if you want a discount. It doesn't help me out at all or anything like that, but for you guys, it will give you a 10%. Moving forward on the visor panel, you'll see that there is a Fieldcraft Survival visor panel. This is the Gen 2 version that they just released. It has a space for a BHRK, which is a basic hemorrhaging response kit, as well as a cat tourniquet. Guys, you need to have cats everywhere. What's great about this, again, is it's a Velcro setup, so you can easily blow it off or put it back on when you need to in the event of emergency, or it will stay put in the event of a rollover or anything like that. How do we know? Well, one of our friends had a lot of his gear in the vehicle, flipped his truck, and things went everywhere. This will try and alleviate those issues, but as well, if you're bombing through the desert or getting flexy on some rock, this will definitely stay put. After that, you guys, it's a factory truck, right? This one came with the factory mats in it already. So what's great about these, you can just pull the plug, drain whatever you want. If you get it wet, whatever, these are a great option to have. And then there's storage everywhere. What's cool about the truck too, as some of you seen, is there is an option on the rear seat, the rear bench, to lock that from opening up from the seat and down from the backrest. You're able to temporarily store stuff there as well. On the backs of the front seats, the passenger and driver, there was also a factory MOLLE setting, which I am going to take advantage of on the driver's side because I don't have anything. I just haven't had time to get that in there. After that, honestly, guys, these JTs come as a really great package out the door, with minor stuff. And I do consider this minor stuff. I know that the GenRight stuff and Warn and the Factor 55 can get a little pricey as you're going through it. But from a packaging standpoint, I would consider this done because you have the option, to throw gear in the back. You don't have to have a rooftop tent. You can just throw a ground tent back there. If you are going to run a fridge, there's power. Ice chest and ice work, right? You don't have to get too bougie with it. For me, though, that's just the direction I go. So with that being said, it does bring us to the conclusion of this video. If you like it, like and subscribe. Tell your friends, share it. We're still doing really great growth, guys. I really appreciate your support. It's just something that when I have time, I'm attempting to do these things on a weekly basis. I do have some other cool things in the works right now. Make sure to check us out in the latest issue of Overland Journal. We're in the back there, did some marketing work with my brothers from Fieldcraft Survival. You can see there, a little stock rescue JT and hashtag published model status. Anyways, the other project that I've been working on is trying my hand at writing. You can see there was the photo shoot for a couple of magazine articles that I've done. And guys, it's coming. Phase 2 is well underway. And catch you on the next one.